cold March night in 1926, a murder was committed in the heart of Harlem's Cotton Club that would reveal one of the darkest secrets of the Prohibition era. Jimmy the Shadow Sullivan, a 26-year-old Irish-American young man working as a doorman at the Cotton Club, but his real job was far more dangerous. He was one of Owney Madden's most trusted men. So why did the golden trumpet playing under the stage lights fall silent that night? And who knew the real reason behind this murder?
It was the 14th day of March, 1926. New York's cold winds still carried the harshness of winter through the streets of Harlem. I stood in front of the heavy doors of the Cotton Club, greeting customers as always, but that night was different. There was tension in the air like electricity, like the calm before a storm. Cotton Club, in that magnificent building on the corner of Lenox Avenue and West 142nd Street, was a strange place that served only white customers but featured only black performers. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, red velvet curtains surrounded the stage. This was the heart of Owney Madden's kingdom, and I was like his shadow, knowing every corner, every secret. I had been working at the Cotton Club for 5 years. When the first arrived, I was 19 years old, the son of an Irish family who had recently immigrated from Europe. The courage I showed in street fights had impressed Owney, and I had gradually earned his trust. That evening, Tommy Goldenhorn Williams was going to take the stage. This 28-year-old African-American trumpeter was the brightest star of the Cotton Club. He had come from New Orleans, and when he put his golden trumpet to his lips, music came out as if angels were speaking. But I knew another secret of his. He was having a forbidden affair with Owney's girlfriend, Vivian Sterling. Vivian Sterling was 24 years old, the daughter of a wealthy family from Manhattan's Upper East Side. Her blonde hair sparkled like gold under the stage lights. Her blue eyes were as captivating as the depth of an ocean. Owney loved her very much. Perhaps she was the only thing he loved in his life. But Vivian's eyes were always on Tommy. Around 9 o'clock, the club began to fill up. There were young people from Manhattan's wealthy families, businessmen, even a few politicians among them. Everyone was drinking the liquor that Prohibition had banned, having fun to the accompaniment of jazz music. I stood at the door, recognizing every face as I let customers in. Owney the Killer Madden arrived around 10 o'clock in the evening. This 40-something English-born mafia leader did not see the Cotton Club as just an entertainment venue. This was the center of his empire. Born in Liverpool, he had immigrated to America with his family when he was 10 years old. He had grown up in New York's Hell's Kitchen neighborhood and committed his first murder at 16. Now he was one of the most powerful mafia leaders of the Prohibition era. He was short but very strong. His gray suit was always perfectly pressed. His black shoes shone like mirrors. He had a large ring on the pinky finger of his left hand, with his family's coat of arms on it, but most unforgettable were those cold stares. He had eyes that could look into a person's soul, that could understand every lie. Everyone around him was afraid of him, and ice-cold fear flowed through my veins when I spoke with. "Jimmy," he said to me at the door, "I want everything to be perfect tonight. I do not want any mishaps." "Of course, Mr. Madden," I said. But as I said those words, there was a strange uneasiness inside me. It was as if I sensed that bad things were going to happen. Owney went inside and sat at his usual table, his special seat in the corner closest to the stage. Vivian had not come yet, which made him even more tense. He was tapping his fingers on the table, waiting for Tommy to take the stage. Around 10:30, Vivian arrived. She looked very beautiful that night. Her black velvet dress fit her body perfectly. The collar of her dress was decorated with pearls, sparkling slightly with each step. She had pulled her hair back, leaving her neck exposed. Pearl earrings dangled from her earlobes. The mixture of powder and perfume left a pleasant scent behind her. Vivian was a typical Upper East Side beauty. Every movement was graceful, every look calculated. When Tommy was mentioned, a childlike sparkle appeared in her eyes. Even when she sat next to Owney, Her eyes looked at the stage, at the place where Tommy would appear. She had placed her hands on the table, nervously playing with her fingers. As I watched her from afar, I could see how unhappy she actually was. Next to Owney, she was like a beautiful bird in a cage. I stood in my place next to the stage, watching both the customers and Owney. This was one of the rules of working at the Cotton Club. Always be alert. Be ready for anything at any time. Different dramas would unfold at the club every night. Drunk customers would fight. Sometimes guns would be drawn. My job was to handle such incidents before Owney saw them. But that night was different. The tension in the air was so thick it was almost suffocating. Tommy took the stage at 10:45. His golden trumpet sparkled in his hand. The stage lights gave him a special beauty. He looked like a prince in his black tuxedo. As he took the stage, he smiled slightly, but I could see the worry in his eyes. He had recently noticed that Owney's attitude toward him was changing. The Cotton Club regulars loved him very much because his music touched their hearts. He started playing his first piece. Everyone in the club fell silent. He was playing Summertime. There was both sadness and hope in those notes. Tears were streaming from Vivian's eyes. Owney had noticed this. He had clenched his hands into fists, tightened his jaw. When Tommy started his second piece, he began playing Ain't She Sweet. While playing this piece, his eyes always looked at Vivian. This was his love song for her. He was expressing his feelings for her through music. But this was very dangerous. It was a very risky game. Owney could not stand it anymore. He got up from his table and came toward me. He leaned into my ear and whispered, "Jimmy, I do not want Tommy to play here anymore after tonight." "Do you understand?" I understood. Owney Madden's words meant a death warrant for Tommy, but what could I do? I was just his man. I had to carry out his orders. "I understand, Mr. Madden," I said. Storms were raging inside me, but I showed nothing on my face. As Tommy started his third piece, two men entered through the back door of the club. These were Owney's most trusted gunmen, Scarface, Eddie, and Quiet Joe. Eddie had a large scar on his face. Quiet. Joe was mute from birth and could not speak at all, but communicated with his hands. Both were Owney's most trusted men. They did the dirty work. The stage lights made Tommy shine like gold. He was playing Sweet Georgia Brown now. The sounds from his trumpet rose to the ceiling of the club. This was one of his favorite pieces. His whole body danced with the music as he played. The customers were applauding on their feet. No one could see the coming disaster. But I kept my attention on Owney. I knew that expression on his face very well. It meant he had made a decision of death. In the 5 years I had worked at the Cotton Club, I had seen Owney wear this expression many times. Each time, someone had died. The first time I saw it, I was only 20 years old and trembled with fear. Now, when I saw this expression, I just felt sad. Because I knew that when Owney made a decision, there was no turning back. At exactly 11 o'clock, Tommy played his last note. Applause rose to the skies. Everyone was standing and applauding. But I was looking at Owney's face. That cold smile was on his lips. This meant the game was over for him. When Tommy left the stage and went to the back, Eddie and Joe followed him. I also followed them at Owney's signal. The back part of the Cotton Club was filled with dark corridors that customers did not see. This was where Owney did his real business. When Tommy entered the dressing room, Eddie and Joe were waiting for him. Scarface. Eddie had gotten that terrible scar on his face in a fight from a rival gang's knife. Quiet. Joe was mute from birth, could not speak at all, but communicated with his hands. Both were Owney's most trusted men. They did the dirty work. I stood at the door, keeping watch. I was checking both sides of the corridor, making sure no one was coming. I heard Tommy's surprised voice from inside. "What do you want?" "I have not done anything." When I heard these words, my heart clenched. Tommy was truly innocent. He had just fallen in love. But in Owney Madden's world, love was also a crime, especially falling in love with his woman. Eddie conveyed Owney's message to him. "The boss wants you to stop playing here, Tommy. You need to leave the city." "Why?" Tommy asked. "I'm just making music." "Because the boss wants it that way," said Joe, speaking for the first time. But Tommy tried to escape. He ran to the window of the dressing room, tried to get out. Eddie drew his gun, but Tommy was too fast. He started running down the corridor, heading toward the stage. I saw him come out on stage. The customers were still applauding. They wanted an encore. Tommy was out of breath. He had taken his golden trumpet in his hand. Maybe he thought he would be safe among the customers. "I will play one more piece for you," Tommy shouted. The customers cheered with joy. But Eddie emerged from behind the stage. He had his gun in his hand, hidden so no one could see it. When Tommy brought his trumpet to his lips, Eddie pulled the trigger. Bang! The gunshot echoed through the club. Tommy dropped his trumpet. It hit the stage boards with a golden color, making a ringing sound. Tommy slowly fell to the ground. Blood was coming from his chest. The customers started screaming. Women fainted. Men hid under tables. Everyone was in panic. I immediately ran to the stage, knelt beside Tommy. "Jimmy." Tommy whispered with his last breath, "Tell Vivian. Tell her I loved her." And so he died under the stage lights next to his golden trumpet. Owney immediately came to the stage. He called out to the customers, "Everyone calm down. This was just an accident. Go home immediately." But of course it was not an accident. This was an execution, the punishment for love. When the police came, I had already gotten Eddie and Joe out through the back door. Owney bribed the police. The case was closed. The news appeared in the newspapers as "Music Accident at Cotton Club." Vivian never came to the Cotton Club after that night. I heard that her family sent her to Europe. Owney never talked about this incident. He acted as if it had never happened. After that night, I could never forget Tommy's last words for the rest of my life. "Tell Vivian. Tell her I loved her." But I could never tell her, because some secrets must be kept until the grave. I continued working at the Cotton Club. Every night I looked at that stage, I saw the place where Tommy fell. I could still hear the sound of his golden trumpet in my ears. But no music ever sounded as beautiful anymore. This was the darkest secret of the Cotton Club. It was one of the ruthless realities of the Prohibition era. Love, music, death. They had all come together under those stage lights.
The death of Tommy Goldenhorn Williams was recorded as one of the most tragic events in the history of the Cotton Club. Jimmy Sullivan carried this secret to his grave, never telling anyone what he had experienced. In Prohibition-era America, even love and music lived under the shadow of the mafia. The Cotton Club was never the same after that night. Every trumpet that played on its stage reminded everyone of Tommy's ghost. This story shows us that even in that era, the most beautiful emotions could be deadly.